record. Call the regular meeting of the Dayton Board of Health to order. It's Thursday, May 6, 2021. The time now is 5:07 p.m. And present with us tonight, myself, I'll be acting in place of our chair. Tom Pyers, as he is absent tonight. I also have our member, Kevin Bernardo, health agent, Todd Pilling, office manager, Austin Grassi, and Building Commissioner Jim Aguirre in presence tonight. With that, everyone could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As a reminder, this is a remote participation Zoom meeting. It's a public meeting being video and audio recorded for cable broadcast and internet posted on www.dayton-ma.gov and YouTube. With that, next item on the agenda is old business. And under A, review, discuss, and act COVID-19 updates to include vaccine dispensing, contact tracing in schools and sports. I'll refer to Todd Pilling, our health agent.
Good evening. So vaccine dispensing, Taunton Holiday Inn opened up as a regional site, and the soft opening, there were a ton of slots available, and we were able to help out a bunch of people we had on our waiting list. But then once they opened that up on mass backs, it very quickly filled up. But the Anawan Pharmacy over in Rehoboth is now open, and they've got a ton of availability, and we've been sending people there, so that's been working out pretty well. I forget where we're at in the town, but somewhere around 30% of the town is fully vaccinated right now. So we're going in the right direction. And they're starting to do the kids that are under 18 now too. So that's working out. Contact tracing has been getting far less. We were down to like 6 or 8 cases a week, which is pretty good. For a while there, we were at like 25 cases in a week. So it's much further down. We are still running into people now who have either had COVID or have the vaccine and are still getting COVID. So there must be some kind of variant or whatever else. So the vaccine's only 90% effective or thereabouts. So we're seeing some of that happening too. The schools, we are also seeing a lot of school children that are starting to get it, but I say a lot. We've got like 6 kids right now that we're following through 4 schools, 5 schools, sorry. Because Bristol Aggie, Bristol Plymouth, Dayton, Rehoboth, middle school and the elementary school. So I think following 6 kids through 5 schools is not crazy. I'm not really worried about it, but it's there. The sports, they're all ongoing, but they're all outdoor spring sports. So we haven't had any clusters in weeks now. So that's been pretty good too. The big thing that's going to be coming up, 2 big things, is prom and graduation, which are, a lot of people show up at those events. And there's not a lot of, there's guidance from the state on graduation. And so that seems to be okay, but we did that last year for graduation. Yeah, so everybody kind of knows what they're doing. So that's not too bad. I don't have any issues there. It's the proms that seem to be the problem because there's no guidance from the state. They're basically saying it's up to the Board of Health, but if you call the state FE, they'll give you all sorts of rules. And I don't know if you've consulted with them yet on the rules, if you've had that issue. But like one of the things they want to do is they want to keep you in a pod. So it's like 8 people will get together at a table to eat, and they'll be like, you rope off a section form, they get up and dance together, and then they sit down again. Like all in like a roped off square, which to me seems a little odd, but this is what is being suggested. But we're still trying to work it out. We're trying to work out venues. We're trying to do different things because they're talking about having it at a remote location or having it at school. You know, honestly, I got to say at this point in time, our recommendation is going to be they postpone it till after August 1st because the rules will change after then. Because right now, prom would be a few days before graduation, so you've got the possibility for a perfect storm here. So we kind of want to avoid that. So I think that's going to be our recommendation unless the board has something, and it's June 2nd is DR's prom. Now Bristol Aggie, they have far less people at theirs because their graduating class is only like around 100. So where DR is 220. So it's a little bit different of an event. But unless the board has something else they want to throw out there, but right now I think that's the direction I want to head in is.
Yeah, I think last year my daughter, I know the graduation was in August, so, and obviously she graduated in May, so they pushed that off, but even then, it was still spaced out and all that. I would say the same thing. You could still have it, of course, but maybe a little later would work out better for everyone.
And the rules should be changing and allowing bigger, more, and maybe even a 3-foot spacing instead of 6. And they're saying August 1st, we might go into step 2 of phase 4, which should be even better. So
It's kind of tough because the kids look forward to this. But for everyone's safety, I think if you pushed out just a little longer.
Yeah, I think having it 2 days from graduation is a poor idea. Yeah, you're starting right into an infectious period, and if you have one big event, which turns into super spreader, then now you're passing on to an even bigger event with, I mean, it could be a recipe for disaster. Not that I hope it does, but could turn to be a very problematic situation. So I think it's spread it out a little bit. I think that would be good.
So I'm working on a letter now. I'll get a draft over to you hopefully tomorrow, so you guys can look at it and see if there's anything wrong with tweaking it. But we're going to be doing this letter in conjunction with the Rehoboth Board of Health, because obviously it's Dayton Rehoboth School District, and they're in this, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
So we're going to put it out jointly, because there's going to be some pushback probably from certain people or certain groups or whatever, and we just want to make sure we're all speaking in one voice. So that's the problems. Like I say, graduation, I think, is pretty much the same as last year, and I think we'll be just fine with that. So,
What about the other sports, for like Lopes Field and all that? Are they ready to start opening or?
Roz, you've been talking to them. Dayton baseball.
Yes, so.
Speak up.
I was just wondering, now it's baseball season, what's going on with that?
The complex is open. We
Speak up.
had their concession stand is open. They have different protocols and they're following all of the guidance and everything that they need to do. They're actually doing all of their ordering on an iPad, and then you call and they call you when your food is ready, you come and pick it up at a different window, so.
That's pretty good.
Very good system. I've heard the food is very good, the place was immaculate. When I went in and did the inspection, everything was working great, all the equipment was functioning properly. So, no, very good system. They were great with social distancing. You could see a couple of family members sitting together, but then there was 6 foot apart. No, they were running it very well. We've had inquiries for the North Dayton baseball field, that they want to start practices there, but it's only practices, there are no games. And
They've upped the number of spectators that you can have from 25 to 50, so that's allowed more people to be there. But again, these are all outdoor venues.
And here as well, we're doing.
When by here, you mean behind town hall?
Yeah.
So, yeah. They practice out there every day. There's dozens of kids out there playing baseball and softball every day. Practices. So that's all I
Thank you.
get. COVID. Anything else anyone wants to know?
Then we'll move on to old business B, review, discuss, and act status report for the health agent employment contract.
So at the last meeting, I presented to you, the board members, a draft contract for what I came up with for myself. Working with Jim on it for just to look it over and see if there's anything that would be inconsistent with anything else. Obviously, for the board's thoughts, the theory is that once the board gets done with it, that we would then send it over to the town administrator so we could work this out. It's not going to get worked out before town meeting now, so presumably be named for the fall town meeting. So I don't know if anybody has any comments or edits or just anything we want to talk about, or we can just postpone it, push it to the next meeting if we want to do that. So whatever.
Yeah, I would just say to, when you're working on it, again, we talked about transfer station. We've got to eventually figure out what's going on with that. I guess us first, and then as the board, and then figure out who's going to manage that. And then.
So you're basically talking revising my job description.
Well, yeah, we'd have to first, I guess, talk with as members of the board, on that, but then that's just something to think about. And then even then, managing, specifically, who manages the town nurse? Is she on her own, or would the health agent do it, or as a department head, he would do it? I think it's mandatory. So, things like that. Staff, who would manage the staff? Day-to-day operation.
Right, so you're talking about revising the job description? Because that's not really contract stuff, is it?
Well, if you're gonna be giving me a raise for additional job duties, we'd have to write it in the job description presumably, yeah. I would think.
Okay.
But I think, I'm not sure if we would have to talk about putting on an agenda like the job description and changing things up, because I know we keep kicking it down the road with the transfer station. To this day, we don't really know who does, we just have the attendants. Tom calls in a truck or two and we get a bill. Really, there's no management there. So,
And I think we had requested that Humphrey come to the meeting, but he was unavailable for
Yeah.
the two meetings, so.
Yeah, we didn't invite him to this one because obviously it wasn't, thing, but. I mean, if you want to work on what you want as a job description before we talk about the contract, we can do that too. It doesn't matter to me what we do as long as we do it in the proper order.
You have to, you can't have something in a contract, under supervision responsibility or anything like that, and not have a job description, so.
yeah,
Job description is just redone. Well, done, really, what, a year ago, year and a half ago? Year and a half ago.
About that, but yeah. So that was when we included the 3 hours for stormwater in there, so.
Against my wishes. At any rate, I mean, in terms of a contract, in general, that's done in executive session, not an open meeting. So if you want to set we can hash out any, I mean, unless there's only a couple little minor details, but I don't want to wait for
Yeah.
Tom Pires to be here to chime in his thoughts without.
Yeah, again, I think we've got till the fall town meeting to get it all done. It's not like we're trying to race for the June 5th meeting.
yeah, this
so
way you can take your time with it. And, yeah, we can always
Just what you put on the agenda as executive session, but it's job description and the contract. The two, or is it
Contract.
just contract?
If there's changes to the job description, I mean, that's going to involve the town administrator and board of selectmen, I think, so.
So do you want to do an executive session before our June meeting like this, start at 5 and then have the regular meeting at 6? Or are you talking like in?
You can do it after,
At a
too.
regular meeting.
You can do it after, that way it's not, it only takes 15 minutes, we schedule an hour, we're not sitting here, we can do executive session after. We can do that in June.
Okay.
All right, so now I'll entertain a motion to table 3B to our June meeting for executive session. I'll step down in second. Motion's been made by Mr. Bernardo, seconded by myself, Matt Tanis. Any other discussion? Seeing none. Roll call vote. Mr. Bernardo
Right.
and I, Matt Tanis, also vote aye. Motion carries the table. Number 4, new business. Review, discuss, and act Strawberry Festival request for pony rides and petting animals.
So, as you all know, the Strawberry Festival happens yearly under the sun farm. And they like to have pony rides and petting zoo animals. I guess it's what, alpacas and ponies and stuff. But the question was whether or not they needed a license from the state. And our animal inspector is not here, but I think that was because I forgot to invite him. But the state changed a bunch of rules in November, and the rule says that they must have a license, but then they say, click here and it's a yes or no question thing. And at the end, it tells you what licenses you need. And based on the animals they're having at the event, it says they don't need any licenses. And Stacy agrees with that. because her and I went back and forth and she emailed me. She's okay with that, but she would still like to know that the animals have their shots that are coming there, just so that she knows that the animals have had what they need. That's the only stipulation that she had, but there's no licenses required. And we don't have any license permit type stuff here either, so. But unless anybody has any thoughts, that's where we're at. Now with us tonight.
Have we ever had a petting zoo?
Now, with us tonight is Chris Pacheco, who is part of the organizer of the event, so she can probably answer some of those questions better than I can. So Chris, are you there still? Chris, can you unmute yourself? Let me see if I can unmute her.
This one?
No, it's only right. She's not unmuting, but they have not, from what I know, they have had animals in the
I'll just.
Hello?
Oh, there she is.
Hi. Yeah, I'm having a pretty tough connection here, so I'm just trying to confirm that it's okay to have the pony ride and the alpacas, and I'm going to make the assumption that they have to have the shots that they're required to have, but that's the only requirement. So there are no federal requirements or anything else. It's just that the animals have to be vaccinated where they should be. We're all set.
That's what we're discussing now, but the question that the board posed to you was whether or not they've had animals at this event in the past.
Excuse me?
The board would like to know if there's been animals at the Strawberry Festival in the past.
Yeah, we've had the lady who does the pony ride, and we had the alpaca. It's from the local alpaca farm. Comes with a few alpacas. Those are the animals we have.
You don't remember anything different, right?
There's nothing different. Just that I understand that the regulations that were important have changed, which makes it possible for them not to have to follow those federal requirements. Because both those people say that they're not required to have those requirements every place else they go.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with what would be needed for that, so we checked on it and it seems to check out.
And the animal inspector agrees
Yeah,
with it.
and if Stacy makes that recommendation, and you're willing to do that, I'd be fine with that.
So I don't know if we need a motion, and I don't think so. I mean, it was just a thing.
No.
We need a motion, it's discussion.
All right, so yeah, Chris, we're in agreement that there are no federal licenses, but you would need to see the vaccines for the animals. Okay.
So
Yeah, Chris, you're having a bad connection. I don't know if you can hear us,
yeah,
but we'll
yeah.
be. So the board agrees with that, no license needed. You just have to show the vaccines for the animals that are going to be there. And obviously you'll be reaching out to, we'll reach out to you about getting your food license and all that, but yeah.
Okay, the food, now, you're talking about food license, but the board has not required us to have a food license for the strawberry shortcakes in the past.
Right, because they're selling strawberry shortcakes at Under the Sun, so they're working under the Sun's license is what they
Yeah. So the only thing I had is a question with the animals. So you want me to get from them a copy of their information showing that those animals are current with whatever is needed and give that to you. Is that what you want me to do?
Yes.
Okay, I can take care of that.
Chris, just for the record, just because we're remote, I do need your name and address just for the record. I'm sorry, I should have gotten that
Okay, I'm Chris Pacheco, 1860 Milk Street, and I am in the capacity of representing the Dayton Historical Society tonight.
So thank you, ma'am.
All right, Chris, you're all set. Have a good night.
Okay, you too. Thank you very much.
Moving on new business B, review, discuss, and act nomination of animal inspector. So I know that you're not, as of yet, nominated the animal inspector for the state, for kind of Dayton at this point. Historically, it's been our animal control officer, Stacy Ferry. At this point, she has not indicated she does not want to continue to be the animal inspector. I don't believe we have a firm yes, she does, but we don't have a no either. So
I make a motion to table item 4B until we get a better, or we can discuss it further.
I was gonna ask her
Yeah.
to table it till next meeting. I'll step down and second that. Motion's been made by Kevin Bernardo, seconded by Matt Tanis. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Mr. Bernardo?
Aye.
I vote aye, as Mr. Tanis. Motion carries to table. So that'll be pending discussion with Mrs. Ferry. Next in a new business, letter C, review, discuss, and act employment of an on-call as needed transfer station attendant. As of right now, we only have one attendant, that's Mr. Rhines. I do have to say for him, he's doing a really good job up there. I've heard nothing but good things about how he's managing the transfer station.
He's making our lives easy over here.
Yeah. I went up there on Saturday and was really pleased with how he was operating. So I just wanted to say that right at the start. But nonetheless, he's the only person we have, and it would be good to have a backup in case he's not available, especially for an extended period. At which point, utilizing highway employees on overtime is going to be really cost prohibitive. So we have before us transfer station on-call assistant attendant, the job description, which basically was transfer station attendant part-time on-call as needed. Reports to the Department of the Board of Health. Hours of work, of course, the transfer station hours, which is Tuesday 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., Saturday 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And the pay rate is $16.79 an hour. And the transfer station is located at 865 Tremont Street in North Dayton. It attaches the remaining job description. So are we looking to advertise and get somebody?
Do we need to make a motion right now? I think we just,
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion to approve the job description advertisement as prepared. Get this posted ASAP. We'll get some applicants.
and it'd be part-time on-call as needed, correct?
Correct. It's basically a backup.
Backup. I'll make that motion.
Mr. Bernardo's made the motion. I'll step down in second. Motion's been made, seconded by Mr. Tanis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Mr. Bernardo?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Mr. Tanis, motion carries. Next, last under new business, letter D, review, discuss, and act revising the septic regulations.
Yeah, so I brought this issue up at the last meeting. There was a few regulations I would like to change. Do you guys have copies of them? So these are just a few things that I would like changed. Based on, obviously, we revised the regs last in July of 2019. And there's been a few things that have been, not going to say problematic, but things that I think we need to tweak in the regs in order to get up to speed. But the biggest one in there that's most important to me is we've got a lot of old perk tests from the 80s and the 90s and early 2000s that are just, they're hard to find. The records didn't necessarily come in from the engineer when they did them, so we don't have like good logs. And I'd like to kind of put an expiration date on perks so that we can, whether it be, 10 years or after a certain date or whatever it may be, but I want some kind of expiration date on them because it's a pain, for lack of a better word. But that's like the big one in there. The rest of the stuff I think is kind of minor. But obviously to revise regulations, we got to talk about it, we got to advertise it, we got to go through the public hearing process part of it. So this was, I guess, step one. And what do we want to do with it? Do we want to have a workshop in order to talk about it? What's the board's pleasure? Does the board want to make any changes?
I would definitely agree with the perk test. I mean, I know some towns that don't even allow them if they're 10 years old. I think that's a little ridiculous. Certainly Title V changed.
I think Berkeley's only 2 years.
In 1995, and with that, soil evaluations, having a licensed soil evaluator and things like that. Utilizing perk tests from the 80s, to me, that's if I were an engineer, I would never use anything prior to 95, that's for sure. I think putting some time limit like 2 years or something, I mean, that's a little ridiculous, but certainly I would be more than amenable to, use of perk test prior to 95. Not acceptable, and certainly if any, we can go from there. But I think probably a workshop to go over the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
Have chair here as well.
We want to discuss fees also, because again, it's been a couple of years and we haven't changed fees. Do you want to even look at it or just put it on the workshop to discuss it?
I would want to look at it exactly. It says here, well test required for Title V inspection, then it says all well tests to include arsenic. I don't want to see exactly what we're testing and if we're going to add anything else besides those. It's just the major 3 we're doing, or
Major potable well.
yeah.
Or
we're just,
I believe right now it's all part of it, but we can have it all ready for you when we get to discuss.
and then just kind of like a brief summary of how do we get to, like, talk about trees of grade change and just different, like, how did this come up? And we can all go with our past experience and talk about different things that moving forward.
you want to do that in June, or do you want to wait till July?
I mean, I don't think this is going to roll out for July 1st,
Yeah.
but I think we need to start the discussion, and even if it's just a workshop, and then when we come up with what we want, then we can have the public hearings. And if we're meeting once a month, we do June workshop, July and August, or whatever, September, and so it might be January 1st when we roll it out.
But we have the meeting next week in a month and executive session.
We can do it in July, and then officially vote on it. For say August, any changes to go forward for a public hearing in September. So I think with Title V regulations, we have to do a little more advertising than just
It's a
like
couple
tobacco.
meetings,
Yeah,
So,
so we could do it in July and then start the process in August. It's not, I mean, nothing, these aren't
this
crazy
is-
changes as it was, last time we had page after page after page, because things hadn't been done in,
No, some of these are just
Decades.
clarification, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it'll move pretty quickly. So take a motion to table further discussion in July meeting.
So move.
I'll step down a second. Motions are made by Mr. Bernardo, second by Mr. Tanis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Mr. Bernardo,
Aye.
I, Mr. Tanis, also vote aye. Motion carries to table. Moving on to next letter E is public input. Nobody here from the public on the meeting at this point. And Mr. Aguirre has something on the public side. Nope. Next, under letter F is inspectors reports and health agent. You're up.
Yeah, obviously we already talked about COVID, and COVID is still a lot of our time. But we are caught up with perk tests and plan reviews and everything else in the office end of things. Right now, we only have one perk test scheduled. That's all we have. So that's actually been doing pretty well right now. I expect it to get busier in the near future.
I'm surprised, yeah.
Yeah. I honestly don't know why it's that slow, but it is a little weird. But the good news is I'm able to get caught up on some of the other stuff. I'm making some headway on some of the other stuff that's on my desk.
Lumber prices.
Yeah, lumber prices are very high right now. So, what else? I did have to go away for a few days unexpectedly. And as a result of that, Roz covered for me and did the craft fair inspection. We had a couple food vendors up there, and she also inspected the baseball
That was on the
kitchen.
corner of the Main Street and,
Elm, Main and Elm,
Yeah.
yeah, Dayton Community Church.
Yep.
So she stepped up and did those because she served safe, and
nice.
you know, obviously she's involved in the whole permitting process, so she did that stuff. So, other than that, I don't think I got too much else to report that I can think of. So that's it.
Yeah.
No, sir.
Outstanding.
Quiet tonight.
Oh.
Thank you, though, for the opportunity.
The flowers are making fire.
Very sad right now.
Nice.
For now. All right, moving on to G, approval of the minutes from April 15th, 2021. Get a chance to look at them?
Yeah, I did. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from April 15, 2021.
I'll step down in a second. That motion's made by Mr. Bernardo, second by Mr. Tanis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Mr. Bernardo?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Tanis here. Motion carries. Minutes have been approved for April 15th, 2021. And with that, last but not least is adjournment. Take a motion to adjourn.
I just have one more thing.
Yeah.
I know we have all kinds of things that are going on, but if we could also, maybe for August, look at the tobacco regs. I know we had started those.
So Seth Baker retired, resigning.
Wow.
Sorry, move back.
So right now, they're completely totally in limbo. Marilyn was back, but she's back, just like 5 hours a week, just to keep them afloat. So I don't think there's any great party to try and get together for that.
Okay.
When I talked to Marilyn, I was like, oh, welcome back. She's like, no, I'm just here. You know, I'm not, like, I thought she was back too.
Because those regs that they have given us is pretty much just plug in what you want, and then at a hearing, the public hearing, but I know we had talked about in the past how the distance from smoking near the building, and I just didn't want that to go, all right.
Did step one, were there other things that you wanted to discuss?
Yeah, there was other things in there, so.
Changes?
So I guess we can kind of figure out what's going on with the Maryland Edge and, all righty. Motion to adjourn?
Step down in a second. Motion's been made by Mr. Bernardo, second by Mr. Tanis. No discussion. Seeing none, roll call vote. Mr. Bernardo?
Aye.
And Mr. Tanis also vote aye. The meeting has been adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dayton. Have a good night.